Hi, Martha.
Hello, Martha.
Well, it's so nice to see everybody here today. I see we have a visitor. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, Martha. My name's Arnold. It's a pleasure to be here.
Arnold, I just want you to know how much we appreciate what you're doing for all of us and give you a great big thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, we thank you very much and thank you for coming. And I just want to say hello to all you other people. Good afternoon, Doug.
Good afternoon.
And let's see, Lisa, how are you doing?
Good, thank you, Martha.
Well, I'm glad to see you're here. And Mac, thank you for all that help to getting ready this afternoon.
I'm glad to do it.
Martha.
I'm glad you're here. And Darcy, I just want to say that you're just a real great support of all of this, and we want you to know we appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
And thanks for being here again.
Well, it's my pleasure.
And thank you all. And I just gotta say, do you know where Marilyn and Mac went this week? They saw Elvis. He's in the play in Seattle called the Millionaire Quartet. It's what it's called. And he was one of the actors. A fellow portrayed him, and it was wonderful.
I thought about you while we were there, Martha.
Well, I've enjoyed it so, Mac. I'm glad you made it to the theater and everybody got there, and I hear you're feeling better.
Yeah, it took a little bit of spiritual help, but I overcame and we were there. Martha, how long do you want Marilyn to stay in trance?
Well, can you check in with her about an hour if she's still going?
Well,
Oh, we sure appreciate that. Thank you. And I just want to say that we have special people here today. Saint Germain is going to start out today, and we have Archangel Michael, and he wanted Archangel Ariel to do the exercise for you. So we are having a full afternoon, and I want you all to sit back, relax, and toodaloo.
Martha, I'm going to get the clock so I can have it closer, I can see it better.
Oh, do
I
that.
can
That'll
see
be,
and I can let you know.
well, whatever works out there, just do what you need to. Thank you for telling me. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am Saint Germain, and I've come this afternoon to give you some information that I think will be very helpful in the coming days. And I want to welcome everybody here today. It is so nice to see everyone. And Arnold, I met you through Martha a minute ago, and I want to extend greetings to you.
Thank you, Saint Germain.
And I'm so glad that you came this afternoon and it worked out for you. So I would like to share, when people have information, they do not go into fear. And so it's very important that you understand sometimes you have been given information or parts of information or false information, ways to distort the truth of what's really going on. And it has been misconstrued over many thousands of years. And so today, since we are in ascension and we have, as I shared at another channeling, how many light workers we needed to reach everyone's energy so it could be lifted into the quality of energy needing for ascension, and we have reached that point, as most of you realize. And in doing that, we have come into ascension, and the energy that's going on right now and moving and creating new space for the love to walk in, come into our existence in our new fifth dimension on earth. Is a miraculous changes are going on, and I have been part of this for quite some time, and it's been part of my mission is to help people change their energy in learning how to come more into the spirit and source of God, and to understand better that you have been perceiving on the third dimension in necessary ways for survival. And I would like to explain today that survival has become obsolete as you're moving out of third dimension on the planet, and shortly we'll be moving into the new higher dimensions as you are multidimensional. And as you are now ready to leave your duality of the good and the bad and the right and the wrong, the judgment and the criticisms that you have gone through and have perpetuated through the fear of the ego, And I would like to explain that the ego originally was not meant to perceive fear. It was originally a necessary part of your growth as you descended in spirit from your higher sources, came down into planet Earth, and we explained this more thoroughly in some past channelings. So we will jump over all that history and say that as you came into a deeper energy manifestation in your physical bodies, it was necessary for your consciousness to be able to perceive what was out and beyond spirit around you. And so it was necessary for this consciousness to separate and be able to perceive what was around you for information, to make good choices, decisions, and stay current in your consciousness. However, something happened along the way. It was not bad, it wasn't good, but what happened is that I'd like you to think in an analogy that if you think of the ocean as spirit, and you were part of that spiritual energy, part of the ocean, and as you came down into earth, descending in your density as to becoming human with a physical body, now you have developed a submarine within the ocean spirit. So you are still in spirit and you are still conscious and God conscious. It surrounds you and it is part of who you are. But you are now wanting to understand what's going out beyond you in the physical world. So your periscope goes up to gain perception and to view what is happening outside beyond your spiritual understanding, so you can still have information. So as your periscope goes up, think of that as your ego. It's separated from your consciousness to keep you aware and for your information. Now, what you didn't expect was that the periscope or the ego was going to perceive what you were projecting out. And in third dimension, what you projected out was the woundedness, the pain, the sufferings of your many past lives, the harms that became afflicted, or the karma coming back and afflicting you. So you were perceiving all this hurt and pain with your ego, and perceived because it was painful and suffering, and the misery was not comfortable, and that fear that was emanating from those particular situations were reflected back to you. And your ego was reflecting back off of the things that you perceived out there. The other people and situations were really just a reflection of your shattered soul. And so many people have taken this information and continued to stay victim in it, continued to stay in their illnesses and their powerlessness and their feeling like they are being punished for something. Often for some people it feels like you're in fallen angels, or you're not worthy and you have much shame. Those are what the ego picked up, or your periscope picked up out there, was your projections. And that was meant to be a reflection back so you could see those parts of you that needed love and to be reloved and accepted and acknowledged as parts of you, to be healed so the soul could come back into its wholeness. Now, some people like to project their pain onto others, because then they don't have to take responsibility for their own healing. As it says in the Bible, physician, heal thyself. You are your own physician, and all healing comes from within. But it's much easier to play the blame game. And if you're blaming somebody else for your problems, then you are staying in that lower density that the ego is picking up, and you are again giving away your power instead of keeping your power and saying, I choose to send love to that, And instead of blaming somebody, instead of pointing the finger that somebody else is the problem in my life, to take responsibility back and not let your ego continue to be the problem by your buying into the fear. And it's necessary to say, I see this in this other person. What is the message for me? What is happening for me that I need to understand, that I need to be responsible for, because it's something in my past that still needs to come into balance. You see, karma is all about balance, and we came into third dimension to rearrange the energy and put balance back in our lives. And as you send out that love that's within, you and your Father, I and my Father are one. The Father is within. The Father is willing and loving and always has presented unconditional love to all his children. Own it, claim it, and see that even though some parts were painful, that is still part of who you are. So often it's nice to say, oh, I'm just such a lovely, gracious person. I care and I share with everybody and I'm generous and I try to do kind things and I volunteer and do all these practical things, which are very honorable. But it's very easy to say, that's the bad guy. There's the guy. He's arrogant, he's mean, he's got resentments, he's angry, and he's the one that's the problem. And I'm here today to tell you that those are just parts of you. Your periscope went up, your ego reported back that information it saw, and it reported it back, but instead of taking your God-given love to share and heal those damaged parts of you, it's needing to do that today, to draw back into you those parts that it's easier to say, if that person just shaped up, if they just got the program, then we'd all be hunky-dory. Which is to say, you are not willing to accept all of who you are. The good and the, we don't like to say bad, but the parts that have been painful. And you need to accept all parts of you, and the reason being, you cannot become whole if you disregard any part of who you truly are. And this is all about becoming back into wholeness and one with your Creator, and realizing that there isn't any part that isn't loved and can't be healed and restored back into the Christ consciousness from which you all came. So it's a matter of saying, I choose not to see the ego's dimensions of fear anymore. I choose to claim that which is being reflected back and heal it, send love to those people that I have been so angry with or I've not gotten along with, or the people that have caused me difficulties. I send love and forgiveness. As I've said before, they played their part very well for you. And it's just that information that came back to you, you misinterpreted it as keeping you separated from God. Ego, some people say, is edging God out. And yes, the ego did separate from God to give you information in third dimension. And now it's time to pull up the periscope, or maybe I should say bring it in from your submarine, and say, I choose to return to my wholeness, my God consciousness, and see all parts of me as being healed in the love of God. There is nothing in my being that is not perfect in the eyes of God. I am perfect love. So you see, your perceptions have been distorted in third dimension, and it was to heal those parts that still needed to be healed. After your many lifetimes that you have experienced here on earth, it has come to a time when you have a choice. The choice is to ascend, which many of you have made that choice. And if you're willing to continue in your pain and misery and continue playing out the game of the ego, still finding those problems out there, reflecting them back, and you want to continue in the game, you will have another opportunity. No one is lost in God's universe. At the right time, everybody will return. There is no hell and damnation or punishment. God never punishes. So I want you to know that it's time, if you choose to bring your ego back into being a rational part of who you are, logical and in loving perception. Now when you focus out beyond your immediate viewpoint, you see through the eyes of God. And when you project out, you don't see the painful situations or the people that harmed you. You see them, if you have healed your soul, you see them as children, your brothers and sisters that are all Christ conscious, and you see only the love of who they are and the goodness in their hearts and how well they played their games, and your games can now go into another different realm where you move into learning new energy changes rather than changing negative to positive. Your energy games, your energy lessons will just change. You always are learning how to work with energy, and this game can now be brought to an end if you choose. As you know, at the end of this year, there's going to be that change on Earth where nobody remaining on this planet will be part of negative energy. It is time for that to be released completely. It cannot be sustainable in the fifth dimension. Only fifth dimension, spiritually loving, peaceful, bliss, ecstasy, and prosperity, wellness, and perfection in God's eyes can exist. And you are willing and able to move on with your choice. So I wish you will in changing in your perception of the ego and seeing it for what it truly was meant to be, just a device to see and give information. And most of you, if you were on planet Earth, bought into the information hook, line, and sinker. However, you had tremendous support of encouraging that from certain people trying to dominate those and to use it to their benefit to manipulate and control the population. And they did a wonderful job, don't you think? But as you see, now that you can notice that what they played out is just a game, it was not for your continuing spiritual growth, and you have overcome and empowered yourself. You have come into the light of dispelling that darkness that was trying to keep you in third dimension. So you have, people in this room have come a long ways on your spiritual path. I recommend you that you can see beyond third dimension today and let the old energy, the denser energy, just be dispelled by the light. That you have walked into a room of darkness, but you have turned on the light of empowerment and unconditional love. I am so proud of everybody in this room. You have learned your lessons, you are moving forward, and you are all to be commended. You are to be very proud of yourselves that you have looked at these lessons and now realize that just how much of a perception they were, and that you do not have to live with that as your motivation or your reaction. You can now move forward in the power that is your God-given right as you ascend into a new dimension of reality. I wish you very well.
Thank you, Saint Germain.
Thank you. That was beautiful, Saint Germain.
Good afternoon.
Good
Good afternoon.
I am Michael, Lord of the Way.
Bless you.
Hello, Michael.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Michael.
I am so glad to see you people here today. I have some information for you. I do not like to see people without information because that breeds fear. And I want you to understand some of the history of your government and justice system so that you will not be in fear as the transition is occurring. And this is a great news for many people, that they need to understand that what's going on in our system, as you notice on the television and other media, that it is a very great chaos going on in many countries besides this country. Many changes are happening. Many people are out of work. There is a great deal of chaos and crisis happening in families, being unemployed. Finances for some are desperate. People are going without food. It is a very difficult time, but it is a time of change, and this all has to come up. And Saint Germain talked to you about the micro part of your change, and today I'm talking to you about the macro part of your change as far as it's manifesting on the earth. And I would like you to have this information so you will not go into fear about it. In these difficult times, it's important to know that yes, your country was established with a constitution to separate it from England, who was trying to control the world. And there is a Declaration of Independence, and it was based in common law from the time of Lemuria, and many laws were used as the basis from the common law originally created and brought into your manifestation, so that there were periods of time throughout history when the laws were what you would call just and fair. However, because England was not willing to let go of this country, in those days they called it the colonies, there was a War of 1812, which you are probably aware of. And you know the results of what the public has been told. However, this information was not of universal knowledge. In fact, it was more like sleight of hand. There was a meeting after this battle on a ship out at sea, where in a very coy way the laws were adjusted. And your present laws since 1812 for the last 200 years have gradually been moving towards this adjusted law, which they call, as for a label, they labeled it Admiralty Law. And this law has gradually grown and encompassed many of the decisions that are made in this country. Have you noticed sometimes that when decisions are made, you say, that isn't really fair, that's not a just situation, or we have a constitution, and how could they declare that is the verdict or the outcome of this trial or jury or whatever the lawsuit is? Have you noticed they don't always match what you think it should match? That's because this other law has been very subtly been growing and taking over and predisposing of the Constitution and your Bill of Rights. As it was pointed out a few years ago, with every law you seem to lose another freedom. And that's exactly why it was brought into place. However, the people that perpetuated this are being rounded up at this very moment. And you see that has only been possible because there was a loophole in this law that was not the law of the land, that was meant to be the main stabilizing foundation to create a solid basis for a government that was fair and equitable to its population. And I will not go into great detail about this loophole. However, when this was finally, through scouring many scholars of the lawyer profession, law profession, many people have been trying to substantiate how to regain your sovereignty. And this was accomplished not too long ago in your terms, and was able to reestablish many of the states through this loophole, enough to make it plausible and usable to return law and justice to this government that we originally established. And it was filed with The Hague, which is the International Court of Law, and filed and acknowledged that this is true and lawful, because you cannot have a change of government that is based in a coup or anything unlawful. It will not sustain itself. The only way the government, and especially the law system, could be reinstated is through following the laws very precisely. So there is no way someone can come in and say there is a problem and it will not substantiate and hold water, so to speak. So in doing this, it's been very important to understand that part of changing this whole, it's very complex. You just can't change the law. You have to have an infrastructure to support a new law. And about the time of President Nixon, some of you might have noticed in the newspaper, there was an article that talked about how Nixon had the guards at the White House, new uniforms were made and were ready to be used. And he was going to turn the government at that time into a tyrannical government with his army at the White House in their new uniforms. And during this period of time, some very high military leaders recognized that the forthcoming of how things were going politically and governmentally in the country, not only judicially, was not going in the direction that your forefathers had actually had the vision for. And together, a very few high-ranking military officials met behind closed doors. They had made an oath, which you've heard very often when new presidents are elected and officials are elected, and those going into the armed services make their oath to defend the country against the enemies without the country and within. And they saw this enemy within. And they have been making gradual steps to bring back the government to where it truly belongs, and has been losing that track of where it used to be on, trying to bring it back into where it needs to be. However, they had a handicap of they cannot arrest civil people that have caused this difficulty. So they looked very hard and wide for which faction of the government could they work with that was an honorable part of what they were trying to accomplish. And they selected the U.S. Marshals, that they would have the ability to make the necessary paperwork of arrests for those individuals that were in control of this governmental change that was not going in the right direction. So through the help of the military identifying those people needing to be arrested, and the United States Marshals willing and cooperatively going to those areas necessary and incorporating the police in that section of wherever it is they need to be, and working with the police, have been able to put together a plan whereby not only will the basis of the justice system be restored, but those people that have stopped it will now are in the process and shortly will become popular in the news of being arrested. They have risen to the occasion to defend their country of the enemy within. while this is transpiring in your country, there will be a time when leaving this country will not be possible. The airports will be closed. Those will not be able to run from being arrested. They will not be able to leave, and therefore all possible routes are being brought into lack of operations for them to take access and be able to facilitate that. Also, the banking will not be operable, so they cannot transfer funds. There will be a great deal of upset in that this can preclude typical needs of people surviving as far as food, groceries, cash, if you can't get to your bank to because of situations are being locked down, so to speak. And I want you to know that the media will tell you this is a military takeover, because you will see the U.S. Marshals making the arrests. And I am here to tell you it is anything but. As the song that Elvis sang today, know that God will pull you through this, that you are on the side of right, and they are the ones that are being taken out of operation, and it will take a matter of a few days and possibly longer for things to settle down and settle out, so that you have now come into a new basis of your government. Your finances are changing because of this. Many changes are going on, and it is not a time of fear. It is a time of rejoicing and celebrating and having a huge party. You know how Mother Segment likes to dance. Get out your dancing shoes, put on the music, and know that you are loved and that you are coming out of this big gloom and doom that has been perpetuated on you for many reasons that most of you in this room are aware of. I want to recognize that you may want to have some extra food put away, some extra cash, and anything that you might need. Just think of possibly your lights going out for a week as they did last winter, and be prepared to camp out, you might say, for a short period of time as things settle into proper order. It is time to know this is just very short time of change that is necessary. It might be inconvenient, but look at what you have coming into your awareness, the prosperity, the abundance that is on its heels and in the forefront of what's going to be beyond this situation. You see, when you know and have information, the fear does not have to be there. And that's the way, and that's the truth, and the light is your path. So may you move forward on your path, aware that all of this is in God's hands. It has been going on for hundreds of years to perpetuate and give the actual culmination that's coming together so this can occur. We are so pleased to know that people today are going to be able to share with others that they do not have to worry about what the news reports are telling them, that it is going to change. The media will no longer, after a certain amount of time at this point, will finally be able to share the truth of these things. So I say, as you notice the changes, be aware how thoughtful this has been put together over these many years to prepare the way for you. We wish you well in your growing and understanding that it is only because of your spiritual growth that Mother Earth has been able to raise into higher consciousness so that the whole planet can move into this fifth dimension, the golden age. What a delight to know that we are on the imminent edge of that happening. And I wish you a glorious future as you move further down your path of spiritual growth, knowing the truth of who you are, and that this has been no longer a dream or an illusion, but with Archangel Ariel will be helping you to relieve yourself of the bondage of ego, and it's no longer necessary. That is not a part of who you are anymore. We will have a little burial today, and that will no longer be a difficult part of your having to work through. In fact, you can just come into a place of passive resistance. Do you remember Mahatma Gandhi and how he overtook India? It was not through guns, and it was not through war. And you are doing the same thing. You are coming into a passive resistance place with your ego leaving. Your personality is going back into your consciousness, and it will no longer be separated from who you truly are. So the separation will now be no longer a part of you. You will move into your wholeness, into your oneness, into knowing that you and the Father are one. I bid you a very lovely afternoon and have a good future.
Thank you, Archangel Michael.
Thank you, Archangel Michael. That was wonderful news.
All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am Archangel Ariel, and I would like you all to take a big, deep breath and just relax and take another big, deep breath and let out all that old energy just leave, because that's what we're letting go today. That old energy that has kept us in the illusion we were separated from God. And we no longer have to believe that lie or perpetuate it in any way. And so I want you to think of yourself today as taking that part of you that what you called the ego, and just take a look as if it's a great big inflated balloon full of hot air. And take a pin and poke it. What happened to your balloon? It went down into its normal size, didn't it? It deflated. And that's what we're going to bury today. You do not need that exaggerated ego which saw things through more pain over time as it progressed, and it continued in your life, and it was growing, and it would become more miserable, and the illness would become more miserable because the illness kept hanging on or coming back as a different illness, and you just, all those things were illusion, and you don't need that anymore. So we're taking out our shovel, and we are digging a hole. Find a nice spot where you are just very pleasant. Find yourself a place that's sacred to you, and you can leave this there for eternity. So just find a spot that maybe has a loving spiritual feeling, maybe a beautiful view of a valley, peace in the valley, or a beautiful view of the ocean, or some place in the woods that is so calming and the birds are twittering and the animals are rustling. Whatever works for you. And pick up your shovel and start to make a hole down into the ground. And the digging is not hard work because it's joyful to know you do not need this any longer. This ego that distorted and perpetuated fear and hardship. And keep digging. You want to make sure that it's gone forever. And as you decide that that's the right distance, put your shovel down. And you have brought a box. It's not as big as a casket. You didn't need that. But you brought a box that's going to hold this deflated ego. It no longer has any power. It no longer is going to be motivating you from fear. It is no longer going to distort what you see and project out there from information that you're needing. It no longer needs to tell you it is going to protect you from what it sees. It no longer is going to create the stress in your life that keeps you in anxiety. And this box that you have is decorated just very beautifully because this is a very special time. And you want it to be a very special occasion. So you can decorate your box in any beautiful way, the decor that you choose to pick. And as you're finishing decorating your box, lay that deflated ego into the box and cover it. Carefully place it into the hole that you've dug. Cover it back up with the dirt that you shoveled out. Even put back the earth, the ground or grass that was on top, so it looks like it's just like it was when you found it. You are going to make a headstone. You can write on your headstone anything you choose, so you know that this is really happening. And you can always put rest in peace. And as you stand over this burial site, I want you to feel the good feelings that are replacing those that you buried. You have created a new space inside of you, and that is called love. When you can change the old, you leave space for the new. You are loving yourself to put into your new feelings the love of God, the joy of God, the freedom to be yourself, and the happiness that the ego is no longer part of your life, and that the past has no pull over you any longer. You have moved into the consciousness of the now, the presence of God. And stand for a moment feeling your new feelings. Feel the joy surge and the bliss fill you. And it is time to turn around and walk away, leaving it behind you. As you walk into the sunlight of the Spirit, everything behind you is being dispelled in the light, and you are free to move forward into the fifth dimension, of which we have all worked so hard to prepare for. Anytime you want to create these feelings, you are welcome to enjoy and invite them back into your lives, and pretty soon they will be all you feel. They will grow and expand in your life as God is energy and expansion. They will become and fill who you truly are, loving yourself as God loves you forevermore. My blessings are with you, dear children. You are now growing up into maturity. Thank you for this opportunity to help you as I was of service in giving you blessings today. I bid you a very fond afternoon and all the blessings you truly deserve. I wish you farewell.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
the wonderful gift, Ariel.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Well, I just hope everybody got what they came for.
I think we
We
got
did.
more.
Well-
Martha, we did.
We just had lots of gifts and blessings for you today, and just hope you come back again, and we love you all, and I want you to know that I am just thrilled to be part of this, so thank you for showing up, and I get to talk to you people. That's the best part I get. So I'm glad you're here, and I wish you well and lots of love. Have a great time in your trip forward into the new dimensions. Congratulations. Toodaloo!
Toodaloo.
We love you too, Martha.